Rome, the eternal city, where love stories are written in cobblestone streets and whispered through ancient ruins. It was supposed to be the happiest moment of their lives. A fairy tale wedding in one of the most romantic places on earth. Friends and family had traveled from across the globe to witness their union. The bride, stunning in white, had a glow that could rival the city lights. The groom, deeply in love, had never been more certain of anything in his life. But behind the smiles and champagne toasts, behind the carefully planned vows and the perfect floral arrangements, there was a secret so dark, so unfathomable, that if revealed, it could destroy everything. 3 days before they were set to say, "I do," the groom stumbled upon something he was never meant to see, a hidden past, a chilling truth. And in that moment, love turned to suspicion, joy turned to fear. By the time the sun set over Rome, someone would be missing. And the dream wedding? It would never happen. Was this a tragic misunderstanding? A desperate escape? Or something far more sinister? Stay with us as we unravel the chilling truth behind a wedding that was doomed before it even began. Because some secrets are worth killing for. Elena Russo was the kind of woman who turned heads wherever she went. At 29, she was strikingly beautiful, with dark, wavy hair that cascaded over her shoulders and deep brown eyes that seemed to hold secrets of their own. Born and raised in Florence, Italy, Elena had an air of effortless elegance. Graceful, intelligent, and always impeccably dressed. But beyond her beauty, Elena was known for her ambition. A successful event planner, she had built a name for herself in the world of luxury weddings, curating dream ceremonies for high-profile clients. To her friends, she was fiercely independent, the kind of woman who knew what she wanted and went after it. On social media, Elena's life seemed perfect: champagne brunches, exotic vacations, and glamorous evenings in designer gowns. Her Instagram was a curated dream, filled with snapshots of candlelit dinners and handwritten love notes from her fiancé. And at the center of it all was the man she called her soulmate, Michael Carter. Michael Carter, 33, was the definition of success. A self-made tech entrepreneur from New York, he had transformed a small startup into a multimillion-dollar company. With his clean-cut charm and effortless confidence, he was admired by many, envied by some. Michael had always been known as a private person. Unlike Elena, who documented her life for thousands to see, he preferred to stay out of the spotlight. Friends described him as thoughtful, reserved, and deeply loyal. He wasn't the type to rush into things, so when he proposed to Elena after just a year of dating, people were surprised. But Michael had never been more certain of anything in his life. Elena was everything he had ever wanted: sophisticated, driven, passionate. She understood him in a way no one else did. Their wedding was set to be a grand affair. A lavish ceremony in Rome, followed by a honeymoon in Santorini. Every detail was meticulously planned. Nothing could go wrong, or so he thought. From the outside, Elena and Michael's love story was something out of a fairy tale. But beneath the surface, cracks had begun to form. Michael's best friend, Jordan, had his doubts. "I don't know, man. Something about her just feels off," he had once told Michael after a few drinks. "She's too perfect, too polished, like she's hiding something." Michael had laughed it off. Of course, Elena was perfect. He had found the woman of his dreams. But then little things started to gnaw at him. Elena was always guarded about her past. She rarely spoke about her childhood or her previous relationships. And then there was the night he found her in tears, clutching her phone in a white-knuckled grip. When he asked what was wrong, she had simply shaken her head and whispered, "It's nothing, just an old mistake catching up with me." He had let it go. Until 3 days before their wedding, when that old mistake became impossible to ignore. 3 days before the wedding, everything seemed perfect, at least on the surface. Michael and Elena had just arrived in Rome, checking into the luxurious Hotel Eden, an opulent 5-star hotel with breathtaking views of the city. Their families and close friends were already flying in, finalizing last-minute preparations for the grand ceremony. But beneath the polished smiles and celebratory toasts, something was brewing, and Michael was starting to feel it. On the first night in Rome, Michael woke up to the sound of Elena whispering in the bathroom. The clock read 3:12 a.m. At first, he thought she was just making a late-night call to a wedding vendor, but the hushed, urgent tone in her voice sent a chill through him. No, I told you this can't happen. A pause. Not now. Not here. A long silence followed, and then, in a low, almost desperate voice, she whispered, "If he finds out, it's over. Everything is over." Michael's stomach twisted. He wasn't the jealous type, but something about this felt wrong. When she finally crawled back into bed, he pretended to be asleep. But for the rest of the night, he couldn't shake the unease gnawing at him. The next day, Michael noticed Elena acting strangely. She seemed distracted, her usual excitement about the wedding dulled by something else. At around 4 p.m., she told him she needed to step out to finalize some last-minute details. But when he asked where she was going, she hesitated. "Just some personal errands. It's nothing important." That should have been the end of it. But something in his gut told him otherwise. An hour later, Michael's best man, Jordan, called him. His voice was low, almost hesitant. "Dude, I just saw Elena. She's not alone." Michael's heart pounded. "What do you mean? Who is she with?" "Some guy. Older. They were talking in this quiet little cafe near Piazza Navona. She looked nervous, man. Like she didn't want to be seen." Michael felt the blood drain from his face. That evening, as Elena returned to their suite, Michael was waiting for her. "Where were you?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. She froze for just a second, just long enough for him to notice. Then, she forced a smile. "I told you, wedding stuff. You sure about that?" She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "What are you trying to say, Michael?" He wanted to ask about the phone call, about the man in the cafe, about the feeling in his gut that something was very, very wrong. But instead, he just stared at her. And in that moment, he saw something in her eyes he had never seen before. Fear. Something was happening. Something she wasn't telling him. And in less than 72 hours, one of them would be gone. It was the eve of their wedding, a night that should have been filled with anticipation and last-minute jitters. The sky over Rome was a deep, velvety black, the streets still alive with the hum of late-night revelers. Inside their suite at the Hotel Eden, however, something far darker was unfolding. Michael had barely spoken to Elena all day. He had tried to push aside the nagging feeling in his chest, but the more he thought about the secret phone call, the hidden meeting with the mysterious man, the fear in her eyes, the more he knew something was terribly wrong. At exactly 1:47 a.m., the hotel's security cameras captured Michael stepping out of the suite. He looked tense, his hands shoved into his pockets, his shoulders rigid. A hotel concierge later reported that he had asked about the bar's closing time but ultimately didn't order anything. Instead, he paced the lobby for nearly half an hour before returning upstairs. That was the last time anyone saw Michael Carter alive. At 3:12 a.m., a guest staying in the suite below heard what sounded like furniture being dragged across the floor. At first, he dismissed it. Maybe a drunken argument, maybe someone moving luggage. But then came the thump. A heavy, sudden impact, followed by silence. At 3:29 a.m., a hotel maid making her early rounds noticed something odd. Elena Russo standing alone in the hallway, barefoot, her white silk robe loosely tied around her waist. She was staring out the window, her expression blank, almost trance-like. The maid hesitated, then softly asked, "Signora, are you all right?" Elena blinked, as if waking from a daze, then turned with a smile. "Just enjoying the view," she murmured before retreating back into her suite and locking the door behind her. The next morning, the wedding planner arrived at the hotel, expecting to check in on the bride and groom's final preparations. But when she knocked on their suite's door, no one answered. Assuming they were sleeping off pre-wedding nerves, she left. It wasn't until 11:42 a.m., when Michael's best man, Jordan, arrived and used his key card, that the nightmare truly began. The suite was eerily quiet. The curtains were drawn, allowing only slivers of daylight to creep in. The first thing Jordan noticed was Michael's phone on the nightstand, buzzing with unanswered messages. And then the smell, a faint, metallic scent that clung to the air. He called out, his voice tight with unease. No response. Jordan stepped further in, scanning the room. And that's when he saw it. The bathroom door was slightly ajar. Inside, sprawled across the marble floor, was Michael Carter. Motionless, pale, his lifeless eyes staring at the ceiling. A pool of blood had formed beneath him, seeping into the grout between the tiles. His hands were still clutching the fabric of his shirt, as if in his final moments he had been grasping at something, at life itself. Jordan's blood-curdling scream echoed down the hotel corridor, sending staff and guests rushing toward the suite. Hotel security was the first to arrive, followed by paramedics, who quickly confirmed what was already obvious. Michael Carter was dead. At 12:07 p.m., the Rome police were called to the scene. The lead investigator later described the site as a crime of passion, brutal, but deeply personal. The only question was, who had done this? And then, the police made an alarming realization. Elena Russo was missing. The crime scene examination. By the time the Rome Police Department's homicide unit arrived at the Hotel Eden, word of Michael Carter's murder had already begun to spread. A high-profile American entrepreneur found dead in a luxury suite just hours before his wedding. This wasn't just a tragedy. It was a scandal. Leading the case was Detective Luca Moretti, a seasoned investigator with 20 years in the force. A no-nonsense man with a sharp mind for details. He wasted no time securing the scene. Forensic analysts combed through the suite. Blood spatter patterns on the bathroom floor suggested a struggle, but oddly, there were no defensive wounds on Michael's hands. That meant one of two things. Either he had been taken by surprise, or he knew his killer. The immediate question on everyone's mind: where was Elena Russo? Detectives searched the hotel, questioning staff and guests. The maid who had seen her at 3:29 a.m., staring out the hallway window, provided the first eerie clue. Why had she been awake, looking dazed, less than an hour after the estimated time of death? Surveillance footage showed that at 4:12 a.m., Elena had left the hotel. She was wearing a long beige coat over her silk robe, her hair pulled into a messy bun. She wasn't running, wasn't panicked. She simply walked out, disappearing into the quiet Roman streets. She never came back. Michael's phone was unlocked by forensic techs. His last message had been sent at 1:26 a.m. to his best man. Jordan, I need to talk to you. Something's not right. But Jordan never saw the message until the next morning. More alarming were the deleted texts and call logs from earlier that night. The tech team managed to recover them, revealing a string of calls from an unknown number. The same number had also sent a cryptic message at 12:41 a.m. You shouldn't have come to Rome. For a moment, police considered the possibility of a robbery gone wrong. But Michael's wallet, watch, and passport were untouched. This wasn't random, it was personal. Investigators then looked into Michael's past relationships, wondering if an ex-lover had followed him to Italy. But there were no signs of recent contact with any former partners. Then came the biggest twist yet. The man in the cafe. Detectives turned their focus to the mystery man Elena had met the day before. CCTV footage from Piazza Navona showed a grainy image of the two engaged in a tense conversation. When police enhanced the footage, they were stunned. The man wasn't a stranger. He was a former police officer. His name was Marco Salvi, a disgraced detective who had left the force under suspicious circumstances. Moretti had a gut feeling that Salvi wasn't just an old friend of Elena's. He was part of whatever secret she had been hiding. When police tracked him down for questioning, Salvi's reaction was telling. He refused to talk about Elena. He claimed he had nothing to do with Michael's murder, but when pressed about what they discussed in the cafe, he only muttered, "Some things are better left buried." That was when Moretti knew Elena Russo's past held the key to this murder. Investigators dug deeper into Elena's past, and what they found changed the entire course of the case. Elena Russo wasn't just an elegant wedding planner from Florence. She had changed her name. Her birth name was Elena De Luca, and years ago, She had been entangled in a criminal investigation involving fraud, stolen identities, and, most chilling of all, a missing fiancé, an ex-boyfriend, who had vanished under mysterious circumstances. His body was never found. Was history repeating itself? Moretti knew one thing for certain. Elena Russo wasn't a grieving bride. She was a fugitive, and she was on the run. As detectives dug deeper, the puzzle pieces started to fall into place. Elena Russo, or rather Elena DeLuca, wasn't just running from her past. She had been living a double life. Bank records showed massive financial transactions in the months leading up to the wedding. Elena had transferred over $250,000 to an offshore account under a fake name. Investigators soon discovered that Michael had been completely unaware of these transactions. But the real shock came when detectives traced where the money was going. It led straight to Marco Salvi. It turned out that Salvi and Elena weren't just old acquaintances. They had been lovers. More than that, partners in crime. Years ago, Elena had been engaged to another wealthy businessman, a man named Alessandro Bianchi. He, too, had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. His case had never been solved. And now, history was repeating itself. The theory was clear. Michael had found out about Elena's past. Maybe it was the suspicious phone calls. Maybe it was the meeting at the cafe. Or maybe, just hours before his death, Elena finally confessed to him. Whatever the case, Michael had become a liability. And just like before, Elena had a solution. Investigators now believed that Michael's murder had been planned. The struggle in the bathroom? Staged. The lack of defensive wounds? Michael had been drugged. Forensic reports confirmed traces of diazepam in his system, likely slipped into his drink. By the time the attack happened, Michael was too weak to fight back. And the final piece of the puzzle? Elena never planned to marry him. Michael's life insurance policy, worth $5 million, had been recently updated, naming Elena as the sole beneficiary. The perfect con. But there was one thing she hadn't planned for. With an international warrant now out for her arrest, Elena was nowhere to be found. For 4 months, she remained a ghost. Then, in an unexpected turn of events, Interpol received a tip-off. Elena Russo, Italy's most wanted woman, had been spotted in Buenos Aires, Argentina. On May 12, 2024, a team of local police and Interpol agents stormed a luxury penthouse in the heart of the city. Elena was arrested without a fight. Her reaction? A calm smile. "Took you long enough," she said. But the real drama was yet to come. The trial, a master manipulator. The trial of Elena Russo was one of the most followed cases in Italy's history. The prosecution laid out the entire scheme, the hidden identity, the financial fraud, the staged crime scene. But in a shocking turn, Elena pleaded not guilty. Her defense? She claimed that Michael had attacked her, that the crime was self-defense, that she had no choice. It seemed absurd until her defense team produced a voicemail, a chilling recording from Michael, sent just hours before his death. "Elena, I know what you did. I know who you are. If you think I'll just let you get away with this, you're wrong." For a moment, the courtroom was stunned. Had Michael threatened her? Had he truly confronted her that night? Was there even a small chance that Elena was telling the truth? The verdict? Was justice served? After 6 weeks of trial, the jury returned with a verdict. Guilty. Elena Russo was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Her reaction? She simply turned to the cameras, smirked, and whispered, "Michael should have left well enough alone." And with that, the case of the bride with a deadly secret finally came to a chilling end. What makes a person like Elena Russo capable of such deception? Was she always a predator, carefully selecting her victims? Or was she someone who, at some point in her life, chose greed and self-preservation over love and morality? This case forces us to ask unsettling questions about trust, manipulation, and the darkness that can hide behind the people we think we know best. Michael Carter believed he had found the woman of his dreams. But how well do we ever really know someone? Could this tragedy have been prevented? Could Michael have spotted the signs earlier? And more importantly, How many more stories like this are unfolding right now? Unnoticed? What do you think? Was Elena always a cold-blooded killer? Or was she simply a desperate woman who saw no way out? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, sometimes the biggest dangers aren't strangers lurking in the dark. They're the ones we trust the most. If you love deep, gripping true crime stories, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a case that will leave you speechless. And if you want to see another unbelievable case of love turned deadly, watch this next video. You won't believe how it ends. Stay safe, stay aware, and as always, thank you for watching Crime Mysteries.